This video was supposed to be published earlier, but I intentionally delayed it because, like many people, I suffered from this problem until I listened to a lot of podcasts from a group of sleep experts and read many books that discuss the science behind effective sleep. And these are the 5 evidence-based things I have incorporated into my daily routine to help me get a great night's sleep and feel refreshed throughout the day. So let's get started. It's very important to wake up and go to sleep at the same time every day, whether it's a regular work day, a study day, or even a weekend. This matter is not only related to the number of hours of sleep, but also to training the biological clock in our brains to a fixed system. Because, according to several studies I have recently reviewed, it has been shown that in the brain of each of us there is a chemical known as adenosine. The substance accumulates when we are awake and decreases when we are asleep. This means that if you are awake for 10 to 12 hours, the levels of adenosine will be very high. However, if you have just slept for 7 to 8 hours, the level of adenosine in your brain will be very low. And the more the substance increases in our brains, the stronger our desire for sleep becomes. Therefore, when we wake up and go to sleep at the same time every day, the levels of adenosine in our brains will peak every evening at the same time, which will in turn create a strong desire to sleep. And it will then drop to its lowest level daily at the same time, helping us wake up refreshed without feeling sluggish. Thus, by providing your brain with a regular sleep schedule, you will be able to improve the quality of your sleep. The second thing we need to go to get deep sleep is to expose ourselves to morning sunlight. Because, according to research from Stanford University, as soon as morning sunlight enters the eyes, the nerve cells in the eye send a message to our brain to completely stop the secretion of melatonin and stimulate the secretion of cortisol, which makes us feel awake. Thus, by this way, we can regulate the biological clock in our brain, which precisely determines the timing of melatonin secretion again after about 12-14 hours, making us feel sleepy later that evening. For example, if you are exposed to sunlight at 6 a.m., melatonin secretion will automatically begin between 6 and 8 p.m. that night, ensuring that you enter deep sleep. However, if you wake up late, for example at 9 a.m., the phase of melatonin secretion will be delayed to between 9 and 11 p.m., reducing the duration of deep sleep. And it is preferable to expose ourselves directly to sunlight without looking directly at it, without a glass or sunglasses. So we don't lose about 15% of the effectiveness of sunlight. All it takes is for you to go for a 10-minute walk to enjoy the sunlight, which will greatly benefit you in achieving deep sleep throughout the night without anxiety. So if you do this daily, your brain will anticipate the time to sleep, making the process of falling into deep sleep happen automatically without the need for effort or supplements. Did you ever imagine that your favorite drink could be the reason you're deprived of a deep sleep? Yes, I am talking about caffeine. Because, as we all know, the feeling of drowsiness begins when the adenosine molecule present in the brain binds to its receptors. In this way, adenosine sends signals to the brain indicating the need for sleep, paving the way for deep sleep. But when we consume caffeine, whether from coffee, tea, or soft drinks, we feel alert. This is because the chemical structure of caffeine is very similar to adenosine. Allowing caffeine enters into the brain and binds it to adenosine receptors, but it doesn't activate them. This process prevents adenosine from doing its job, which leads to our inability to get a good night's sleep. But what many people don't realize is that the half-life of caffeine is between 5 and 6 hours. In other words, if you consume caffeine at midday, half of the caffeine will still be in your body after 5 or 6 hours, which prevents adenosine from performing its function during the night. Therefore, it is very important to stop drinking caffeine 8 to 10 hours before your bedtime, allowing adenosine to start the natural sleep pressure process and thus giving you a chance to get a deep sleep. Look, we all go to sleep every night to rest, but our minds don't rest because we spend long hours in our phones or computers, either browsing social media sites like TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, or chatting with our friends. However, what we don't consider is that in doing so, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity for deep sleep. Because when we use these devices, we expose ourselves to the danger of the blue light emitted from them, which consequently tricks our brains into thinking that it is still daytime. Because when the light shines through the retina and reaches your brain, it sends a signal to part of the brain to inhibit the secretion of melatonin and activates the secretion of cortisol and epinephrine, making it difficult for us to relax and sleep. Keeping us awake and staying awake in the evening is exactly what we want to avoid. Therefore, it is very important to begin with avoid the exposure to artificial lights after 8 p.m. as much as possible. Secondly, make sure to turn off the bright overhead lights and replace them with side lamps that have red or orange soft lighting. Because if you needed to use the bathroom at night, exposure to red light is much better than white light, which stops melatonin secretion and thus makes it difficult for us to return to sleep again. And this is what confirmed by the study conducted by University College London, which found that replacing bright white light with red light in the evening reduces activated stress on the retina, which preparing the body for relaxation and helping to enter deep sleep faster. It is very important to set the temperature of your bedroom appropriately because the cooler the room is, the better your sleep will be. And this is because our bodies need a temperature drop of about 1 to 3 degrees to fall asleep and stay asleep. Where most studies indicate that a temperature of 18 degrees Celsius is optimal for sleep. Therefore, you can either place a fan in your room, open the windows if it's very hot, or take a hot shower before bed, which will help lower your body temperature later. So, if you apply each of these 5 scientifically backed tips in your daily routine, I can guarantee that you will be able to get a good night's sleep. So if you liked my video, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like this video and comment below this video. Thank you for watching.